There's Always a Lyric is sponsored by Lotus 823. At Lotus 823, your goals are our goals. We help consumer tech, home, and lifestyle brands gain visibility, drive relevant traffic, and increase sales through customized public relations and marketing strategies. Want to learn more? Head over to lotus823.com or get in touch at biz@lotus823.com today.
Welcome to another episode of There's Always a Lyric. I'm your host, David Hernandez, and today I have the honor and pleasure to introduce Mike McFadden. And Mike and I have worked together on some projects, and I've gotten to know him, and I cannot say enough great things about him. But first, let me give you a little background on him. He is currently the president at eAccountable. Mike McFadden is growing an advertising agency designed to help companies grow and grow profitably. eAccountable was founded in 2000 and has been at the forefront of affiliate marketing. And Mike has been building a team who can help clients well beyond affiliate. The agency now has a team who can help clients across channels ranging from Amazon, paid search, paid social, email, direct mail, and more. Ultimately, the agency is not interested in selling a service. Rather, eAccountable is focused on helping clients grow profitably. I love that. Since joining in the summer of 2020, eAccountable has grown 133%, which is wow. We'll talk about that. More importantly, their clients are growing and the team is having great success and having fun along the way. Prior to joining eAccountable, Mike spent nearly 10 years at Ogilvy. He was the executive vice president of digital transformation and partnerships. There, he led a team across multiple offices, designing and building human-centered digital experiences. Before working at Ogilvy, Mike founded a vacation rental platform as well as a vacation homes charity organization, which raised more than $500,000 for nonprofits. With more than 20 years of experience in brand strategy, product innovation, consumer technology, and startups, he is ideally suited to help organizations grow their business. Mike has worked across many industries and geographical locations. Welcome, Mike McFadden. It is truly a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I wanted to start with where we are right now with the president. If you can tell me a little bit about how it's going. I mean, you came on board in 2020. A lot has happened since then, based on the summary I just read. And more importantly, there's been a lot of growth in the last years. Can you share a little bit with those that are listening on what took place?
Yeah. We have experienced a lot of growth, and I get asked, how do you grow an agency? And I do think it boils down to two simple things. How good is your team? How good are your clients? And so just every day we are investing in growing and investing in our team. How do we help them get better? How do we find people that are well suited, aligned in our mission being driving profitable sales. Mm-hmm. And that mission is interesting because you would think at the core, most agencies would be thinking about that.
Right.
But it's quite fascinating. I did not think this would be a differentiator, but it sure seems to be, because I think, marketers as a whole, myself included, can get caught up on the thing. I used to joke, is it the Twitter? Is it the social? Is it Google? I am old enough to have legitimately had a client ask, can I get on the Twitter? And I kind of chuckled. So you get caught up looking at the shiny object and can lose sight of what's going to drive sales. So the last 3 years, I go, it's not one big silver bullet. It's just every day are we investing in getting ourselves better.
Right.
And then on the other side of the coin are we continuing to invest in getting clients that we can stay with for decades? And we do talk a lot about, we want clients that we will be with for decades. And that helps anchor against a few things, not churning. Mm-hmm. Take care of your clients. When you think that you're going to be a partner for 10 years plus, your decision making can be different. what you invest in to help your client succeed is different. You're okay investing or maybe not making as much upfront. Even in the last 3 years, we've gone through a lot of ups and downs across our portfolio. But when you're in the mindset of we're in this together for a long time, you get through it together.
Right.
So
it's a long tail, long-term approach. And, you said a few things that I want to touch on that I think are very important. One is, you talk about the right people, and everybody talks about how important people are, but I feel like it's a bit of a cliche, and a lot of companies don't really put their money where their mouth is in terms of not only hiring great people, but then retaining them.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, when I came over, eAccountable is a healthy affiliate agency.
Right.
But when you're just running affiliate, to try to convince someone to come over that's been in a proper large PR firm or in a running Amazon for 10 years, it was a lot of casting the vision of where we're going.
Right.
And then kind of crossing your fingers and going, no, I hope we get this. Yeah. The other piece, it's so incredibly important to look at the values.
Yeah.
And we just spent some time again reevaluating what we call our core values. And when you think about an agency, one of the core values is it can be articulated different ways, but are you ready to put in the hard work? Are you committed to client success? It's something that in every interview talk through, like, talk to me about perseverance. Talk to me about your commitment level. Because when I do view this as an agency, when we say yes to a client, we're saying yes, and through the thick and the thin.
Right.
And so you got to have a team that understands that commitment level. Now, what I'm also not saying, though, because this has come back, we went through, I haven't done the counts to date, but over 200 interviews. I mean, it's because to find the person that understands that, but then I'm not also saying work yourself to death 22 hours a day, not sleep. And it was
right.
And so through all the interviews, through our process of going through, it is fascinating to see how many people have been in environments that are, I don't know if toxic's the right word. I call them wounded people. I mean, like deep wounds being taken advantage of. There's a difference there. We're not saying come in and we're going to grind you until you can't do anything.
Right. We're not gonna
yeah. But when you talk about resilience, it's interesting to see how people will interpret what you mean there, especially when you're an agency.
Well, there's a lot more to that grow profitability piece that you talk about in your profile on LinkedIn, that there's other layers. It impacts communities. It impacts the employees that work at that company. That you're basically looking at the profitability piece all the way through. There's a through line to overall success for people, community, towns, neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It runs all the way.
It strikes a chord when you go into an organization, and I get torn up on this.
Yeah.
A profitable company makes a bigger impact on a community than anything else.
Yeah. It can change the course of things for people.
It's honestly, it's why I love working with manufacturers. I love going into clients. The first thing I did when I got here is I took team members to the clients. Now we're a digital agency. You don't really have to travel. You can sit on Zoom forever.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the guys goes, so I'm coming out to this plant. I said, yeah. And I go, there's two things. I want you to learn more about this business. Like, you got to understand how things are made.
Right.
Second thing, I want you actually to see the impact. So you can sit behind a Zoom screen and sit behind, an analytics dashboard, and go, great, we just drove, $7 more million of sales and $1 million back to the bottom line. And what you don't see is the growing accounting team, the operations team. You don't see what's happening within the whole ecosystem. And so we do a lot of travel, and a lot of it is actually not just to spend time with the clients, it's genuinely to go, come see the impact. It can be misinterpreted as like money hungry when we talk about profitable sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what it really is, a profitable business, you see people's kids going to school, you
Right.
see donations to local nonprofits, you see these trickle effects that happen when commerce is done well.
What are the origins of that? Was there in your earlier career, were you impacted a certain way by someone, or it could have been, someone that was a colleague or a mentor or a coach, or how did you? What led you to this very grounded, I think, approach and philosophy?
I had the fortune to do some studying overseas that had the Skoll Scholar social entrepreneurship program at Oxford. And I got to work closely with the Skoll Scholars. And these are folks that had a scholarship to go, and they earned that scholarship because of their impact in their communities or globally. I mean, they're doing incredible work, and I would say to help humanity. That might not be their terms, but that's how I would say it. And, I show up and I'm through the lens of marketing and how do we sell more stuff.
Right.
And it can feel like a conflict. You either have, it can feel like a black and white. Either you want to go make money or you are going to make no money and go help people.
Right.
And you're like, why is this black and white? In
Right.
fact, when you look at a lot of the nonprofits and the social enterprises, nonprofits are typically funded by private and public money.
Mhm.
Our social enterprises are typically attempting to be sustainable through some commercial transaction. But I was like, I don't know if this is I don't think it's black and white.
Right.
In fact, when you look at a lot of the money that's donated, that's all coming through successful businesses. So that was one influence of just, I can still vividly remember of thinking why does this have to feel like a black and white thing?
Right.
It's
not this or that.
Yeah. And one's not better than the other.
Right.
At all.
I get it.
Like,
what you saw and proposed is just another side of the coin, a third side to the coin, if you will.
Yeah. I also have a close friend who has spent his whole life, close to his whole life, but we'll call it at least 2 decades. He might be on his 3rd decade, who has tried to continue in his sphere of influence, pull city leaders, government leaders, faith leaders, and business leaders together to solve a common problem, wherever that is, in whatever municipality. And it was another just sitting in a lot of the conversations and hearing from different leaders and their points of view, and just the stories. I mean, in that triage, you have 3 different entities who are they're trying to do their best. Everyone's got an opinion on government, but at the end of the day, government's typically trying to do their best to serve the citizens.
Right.
This group had faith leaders. These faith leaders are trying to do their best to serve their communities, and the business leaders are trying to make money. And a lot of these that would show up had this mindset of I'm not just building a business, but they're intimate. Use that term. It's a great term. Intimate with their employees. Yes, they were there to make money and wanted a profitable business, but there's deep connection.
Yeah. Right.
It's
about those relationships.
It's those relationships. One of the business owners had a strategic hiring process around bringing people in from a nonprofit called Hope House. And this was hiring, whether we want to call at-risk or hardship folks, and giving them a shot. Wonderful. And I remember seeing that and going, this is what business really does.
Right. That was the aha moment. That was the light bulb for you.
Yeah.
And it's really informed and driven where you've gone, basically, what you've done. So we've talked a lot about where you are now and what you've arrived at, but there's also a past that leads you to where you are. And no one's life is one long ascendancy. It's not a hockey stick of a life.
Right.
At some points, we have valleys or troughs, failures. Can you share a time that something like that happened to you? Whether it was, you can share a story of a failure, or just where you got a different outcome than you were hoping for, or that you just found yourself in a situation where you're just like, this was not the right pivot for me.
Depending on how people spin it, I still call this it is a failure, or we did not hit the goals that we wanted to hit.
Right.
We launched a luxury vacation home rental company.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the VRBO of very high-end rentals. This goes back to 2006, 7, and 8. And high growth and vacation rentals, no Airbnb at that time.
Right.
VRBO was just acquired by HomeAway.
Mm-hmm.
There was a gap in the marketplace on the luxury rentals, in that there was a big trust factor. So a lot of homes that were worth $2 million plus, 3 million, 5 million were sitting vacant, and there wasn't a good vehicle to use that. Still deeply believe in that, and I think Airbnb has proved. And I still say VRBO, even though the new creative agency says Verbo. We didn't make it. We were able to have like a little exit, but I like to call it a swinging bunt. And it didn't meet the expectations of our investors, didn't make the expectations of the founders.
Right.
And so that stunk. Here's what took away from it, though. Every day, even still to this day, right now, even to my phone call this morning, that wound is so real as it relates to we underestimated and we're ill-equipped to really acquire customers and continue to drive that CAC down. And I do have the fortune of talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I find that is typically the biggest gap with a lot of entrepreneurs. They've got a great idea. They've got what appears to be product market fit, and they haven't figured out how much it's going to cost to acquire a customer. What's the lifetime value of that customer? How the heck do you keep them and get them to buy more? And it sounds simple, but I'll be a son of a gun. That thing's overlooked so much. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's actually simple math.
Right.
But that, the historically marketers a lot of people think of marketers and advertising as just people sit and think about campaigns and creative.
Right.
And right now it's social ads. And
right.
That drives me nuts, because actually the core of creative is ultimately how am I going to acquire new customers,
right?
Acquire them cheaper, and then keep them longer.
You're right. That really is the mission. Creative doesn't live in its own bubble. It's there to serve a master, and that master is acquiring new customers, building out that community for that brand.
Yep.
That's the job. That's the underlying piece of it.
We make things so confusing.
Yeah.
Who's your ideal customer? Why are they going to buy, or why are they going to engage, or why are they going to subscribe, whatever you're trying to get them to do? What do you offer that's appealing and exclusive? If you miss those fundamentals, it's really hard to move forward.
Agree. Right. There's no place to go.
Yeah.
So I guess, that all of these previous experiences have really led you to have the kind of, it's business with purpose, to try to cut it down to one.
Yeah.
It's business with purpose. And it really is quite something that you've gone through all of these iterations in your career, and basically this decision is summational. It's summational based on your experience, which is great, because a lot of, obviously a lot of folks don't get there, and you don't hear much about this kind of an approach to a mission or a vision for a company.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss to say there have been a lot of people
Mhm.
That I will call it's an opportunity, it's luck, it's a blessing. You can say whatever word you want, that I've got to work with. You can call them mentors, you can call them angels.
Yeah.
You can call them sages. And I had them in different periods of life. My first job, I worked with a partner. I'm just a little marketing analyst, setting up focus groups, taking notes, doing my best job possible, and eating M&Ms behind a focus group. It's your first job. I don't really know what I'm doing. I just know I need to summarize these notes and try to put it in a presentation, and then deep down hope that there's not too much editing done.
Right.
You always knew, you're like, boy, I really messed that one up. It took them another day to finish it. And then if you nailed it, the partner was gone. And but I had one who deeply cared about people, and it was so different than anyone else. And that was kind of like one little snippet. I was like, wow, this guy goes in and he's meeting with clients and he's asking about their kids. And this isn't just like a client service baloney. He deeply cared.
Right.
Very curious.
And that resonated.
Oh, it resonated because you saw a connection. It was deeper than just a transaction.
Right. There's a relationship there.
Huge. And then I got to work with a woman at Effective UI who went on, and she was the CEO there, and she had a compassion for our team that it's not like she was out saying this, but you saw it in every action. And even when there were ups and downs within the agency and clients come and go and there's difficult conversations, there was this extra level of compassion that you saw that was just different. And you saw how people wanted to work for her. You saw how clients responded to her, and it was just different.
I have a completely different question. How does a guy like you find balance? Like, I mean, you're just on the go. 133% growth since 2020, and you got to throw in, oh, by the way, there was a pandemic.
So there's a couple things. I actually love what I'm doing. So it's interesting when the conversation comes up around balance, work-life balance. And I find more often than not, that question comes up because someone hates what they do. Now everyone's situation is different. So you may be in a job and you don't like it, but this is where you are, and you got to be there. And the conversation of balance for that situation is a little different than the conversation of balance when you actually love what you're doing. Right. I will have phone calls at 7 a.m. I will have phone calls on the weekend. We work with owners. I go, and I do mention to this team, do you think selling ever stops? It doesn't. So there are times where you're like, is this outside the boundaries of work-life balance? I go, when you're committed to helping clients grow, it ends up, you're hoping that there's not a break in sales. So there is an element of that I go, I actually love it. Now, if I don't take a break, I'm in a lot of trouble. So there is still a need for rest. I use the term of like, am I getting filled up? So sometimes it's taking walks. Sometimes it's, I don't know, I spent several years doing the Headspace app. Yeah, and that was, I've not been doing as much. Actually, I was kind of reflecting on that. At that season in life, that little orange dot on my phone was like, it was the perfect getaway. I mean, if I could, it was perfect. So I don't know. I kind of go, that balance, it ebbs and flows a little bit on what that looks like. I really struggle with the balance question because I go, I know there's got to be rest so that you have energy, right? There's an energy level that you got to have. So that I never want to ignore. But the idea of like, oh, I just shut everything off. There are times I shut things off to be focused, or times that I shut things off where I know I need to recharge. But I don't have like a Tim Ferriss regimen. I don't actually know if he's still doing his podcast, but if he did, because there was a season that I listened to everything, I would imagine there's a regimen, and it was like every day at this time, plus these 2 supplements, plus this workout and jujitsu. That never worked for me. I was like, okay, there are some mornings that I need more quiet time, and there are some mornings that it's like, oh, cool, I have a 6 o'clock call because it's 8 o'clock on the East Coast time, and we have someone calling in from India. Love it. Let's go.
Right. Depends.
Yeah. So I have one more analogy for the rest.
Yeah.
Or the balance. I went whitewater rafting. I've been like 4 times.
Yeah.
So I'm in Colorado, but I'm not hardcore outdoors.
Right.
But I was on this whitewater rafting, this river, and it was an incredible analogy for life. I mean, you're in nature. It's all around you. Yes. But there's also an element, these rapids are moving. So kind of look around, but be careful how long you're looking around.
Right. You have to be aware. You have to stay aware.
Yeah. There's a guide. They know one was called Corkscrew. I'm like, I'm glad someone knows what the name of this is. Sounds crazy. And then all of a sudden you make a turn and you're on the corkscrew, and then you hit a rock. Everyone move left. Everyone move right.
Wow.
And you kind of can plan, but you can't plan. And why does someone fall off the boat one time and someone else stays on? You don't know. Who knows? And there was an element where I was like, oh, this is my life. Like,
right. This is a metaphor.
Yeah. Oh, everyone move right. And then as soon as you think that you could just chill, watch out.
Right.
And then the other layer on it was, it's so enjoyable. You can also be on it and be completely stressed out.
Right. White knuckled and
I don't know. I walked away going, this is a lot of fun. It's intense.
Yeah.
This got up into class 4, and one she said was class 5, but I don't really know the difference. I just knew it was like, hold on for dear life a few times, and a few times where you're like, oh, I get to relax a little bit. Let me look around. But don't look around too long because you're about to get yelled at to move left.
That's right. It's an ongoing journey that's in constant shift and change.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that leads me to my favorite question, and the title of the podcast, regarding your own personal take on what's your favorite lyric or your favorite song title, or it could be a poem, that really captures you and captures your journey. What would it be?
There is a poem by David White called Start Close In.
Start close in.
Yeah. It goes, start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing close in, the step you don't want to take.
Oh, wow. Wow.
In a season of life, you could call it a midlife crisis. You could call it a quarter life crisis. In a time of just deep reflection.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember exactly who guided me to David White, but I read one of his books that was on restoring the soul of corporate America.
Wow.
And he's a poet.
No, clearly.
And anyway, this thing resonated with me big time. And it resonates me because it's about, you can get so inundated with looking at so big picture and almost get stifled, stopped dead in your track. And there was some beauty in this of going, don't even think about the second step or the third step.
Right.
There's a step right in front of you.
That is really, first of all, the first time that someone has cited a poem for that question. And it's also so beautiful, simply laid out, and yet so deep. It cuts to the core.